Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Hello, friends. I am so excited to introduce you to my new best friend, Amanda. She is here to talk to us about moving to that next level, that passion towards a purpose that's really going to fulfill our lives. And it can be what you're doing right now today, but with passion. And how do I make that happen where I'm loving life? So, Amanda, I'm so excited to talk to you. All the information that you provided to us, your bio, your headshot, and all the links to how to get a hold of you are in the show notes for our friend already. So let's maximize their time and let's get started.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to chat, especially on this topic. Thank you.
I think it's going to be fun. How do I get more passion? I think I have a lot of passion when it comes to the interviews, but not always all that background stuff to all the other stuff I get to do too. And so how do I create that with more passion?
I love that. I think a great way to tap in to your passion is really figuring out what exactly is your passion. And I think for a lot of us, especially moms and women, and, we're busy with life and taking care of others, we sometimes put ourselves to the side and we lose ourselves in that process. And it can be really disheartening. And there comes a point in life where, you're like, hey, wait a minute, what about me?
Yep.
What about, am I fulfilling my life? Am I living out my passion? What is my passion? So, I think the first step is really discovering what your passion is. And for me in my journey, it was really getting to know who I was at a deeper level. Mm-hmm. And I had this past way of being where I would live my life through the eyes of trying to please other people. I was your avid people pleaser. That was who I was. And that was the name of my game. And I lived my life trying to please other people, trying to do things that were, acceptable or that would make people feel proud. And I lost myself. And I remember becoming a mom and having my daughter and looking at this beautiful human that I created. And for the first time in my life being like, oh my gosh, I finally followed through with something because here she is, but at the same time, I felt so unfulfilled and I felt so scared because I thought to myself, oh my gosh, now here is this little human that's going to be watching and looking at every little thing that I do. And what kind of example am I giving her? Right? Because I knew I wasn't living a life that was authentic to me. So I think it's an important thing to remember when you're taking those first steps towards living a more passionate life, to living a life that's more authentic to you, and ask yourself that question. Have I been living a life that is being fulfilled through the eyes of me? Am I doing things that make me happy? Am I in my joy? So I think that's a first important step to start off the conversation. Am I living a life that is authentic to me? Because I think when we live in our authenticity, that's where we find our passion.
Yeah, I agree completely, but I also want to give us permission to get baby glimpses of our authenticity. I can't know all those things that are truly me until I start removing those layers of stuff that has been built around me. You must act this way. You must do these. You must have these degrees. All of these expectations that have surrounded our soul. And they can only come off. Well, okay, there are people that have had them ripped all of them off. But as we look for authenticity, know that it's okay to let that change. Take off that layer of people pleasing. Take off that layer of putting yourself last. Take off that layer, and allow it to shine. And don't worry about, I don't know who my authentic self is, because I know I was hung up on that for a long time. I don't know what I am. But as I shed tiny layers, I became more content with the person I was being. Am I at the final destination? No. I know there's more layers still to come, but I feel more fulfilled and confident because I feel like I know some of my passions now.
Yeah, I love that. And I think an important way to really tap into that is removing those layers, is being intentional and realizing, like you said, it is okay to let those go because, you're essentially holding on to something that isn't serving you, that's been serving others, those expectations. And I looked at my own life and I thought to myself, Amanda, you're living your life through the eyes of other people's expectations, which honestly boils down to a reflection of themselves, of things that they weren't able to accomplish, that they weren't able to follow through with. And in turn, they push it on to you to do so that they have some, form of fulfillment within their own lives. I thought to myself, that ain't my job. That ain't for me to fulfill. I ain't got time for that. I got to do what makes me happy. So I set out with intention, surrounding myself. Community is really important. And finding a community that you really vibe with, that has the same moral values as you, that has the same, core values, and surrounding yourself with those people. And it really allows you to see, when you surround yourself with that greatness, a lot of times we first step into those spaces and we think, wow, this person's amazing. Look at everything that they're doing. Or look at this woman. Look at everything that she's achieving, he or she. And you don't see that within yourself, but I will tell you that it is there. Energy is real. And who you surround yourself with, that greatness that you see within somebody else is because that greatness resides inside of you. You just haven't activated it yet. So it's really being intentional and surrounding yourself with people that are going to pull out the greatness within you, and start discovering that deeper part of yourself. And it really in turn, as to when you start letting go of the expectations, the people pleasing, everything else that you've put on yourself that does not resonate with you and it is not yours, you start grabbing onto what is yours. And it's a fun ride, I have to say.
You're talking about how people pull it out of you. And I think for most of my friends, they allowed it out of me. There's nothing really that they did other than totally accept me the way I am, which I feel safe to let more things out. And in that safe situation where people grant you space to be who you are is so powerful. You think about all the people that you were around that had expectation. And then when you find the group that's just like, I love you just for whatever, it feels so much better.
Yeah.
And when we go through, when my husband and I first got married, I felt like it was my job. I had been raised that if he wasn't happy, it was my fault. And I got to a point, it was like, I cannot make you happy. There is nothing that I can do. So you go be happy. I'm no longer responsible for it, which changed our lives because I quit feeling responsible. He felt more free to be himself and became happy. So it's this balance between when you allow that person to be themselves and quit expecting them to act a specific way, they become happy or content, whatever the word that feels best to you.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that permission is allowing that. I always call it that quiet whisper. Like I feel we all have that quiet whisper. It's that other voice that resides beyond the mind. And it's a quiet whisper. And it starts out, sometimes we can't hear it, but when we have that intention and we start tapping in, it becomes a quiet whisper, right? And then the more you have that intention and the more you tap into that quiet whisper becomes a loud roar. and you allow yourself to really step in and be who you want to be and do the things in life that you really want to do. And it's a very fulfilling experience.
I love that. And I kind of call it my inner wisdom or my silent wisdom too. It's just that things that you don't have to, you just know, you just are, and it's just okay. And I know that was a lot of just, but simply, it's just simple when you allow it to be. I mean, we can make it so hard. How do I find my passion? Start journaling. What brought a smile to your face today? That's all you can find. I was an awful student, and I got bad grades until I got to college because there was all these rules you had to follow also. So when my kids would go to school, I wasn't going to put that pressure on them. So I'd say, what made you smile today? What made you happy today? Not what'd you learn?
Right. Yep. I love that. I try to do that with my kids too. My kids will come in. I'm like, what was your favorite part of the day today? Because if you say, what did you learn? They're like, especially my 5-year-old. He's like, I don't know. Okay, great.
Well, and they don't recognize learn or unlearn because they're so young right now. Everything is learning. Yes. And it's not just because you went to school, you learn in every situation you're in. And so I love that, even 5-year-olds can pick something that made them happy.
Yeah.
Or put a smile on their face. I always say nothing external can make me do anything. I have to choose to.
That's funny. I like that.
We do need to get a quick break and have a word from our sponsor. But what I think when we come back to just really, how do we find what our passion is? What are the steps that we can take to find that passion, or at least unreveal it, because it's there. You have it. So give us just a moment. We'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Lara Jane Coaching. You know you're ready to silence your inner bully voice. Let Lara Jane support you with coaching. To schedule an introduction call, go to larajanelayton.com.
Okay, Amanda, help me and help our friend that's here with us to understand how to find that passion. Because until you find it, how do you do it?
Right. Well, like I mentioned, I think an important step is really, the first step is letting go of the expectations that other people have poured onto you, realizing, coming from my experience of being a people pleaser, which I've seen, a lot of women in my community, they have similar experiences. They kind of lived life for other people. And I think the first thing is just allowing yourself, giving yourself permission. I think a lot of times we do things that are out of the box, out of the norm, something that, the people that we are surrounded with or, around aren't used to. It's not their norm. So we feel, we ask ourselves questions like, is this okay? Is this right? So I think a first important step is really just giving yourself permission to be.
So maybe change that question from, is this right, to how do I feel about this?
Yeah, I think that's an important question to ask yourself. How do I feel? Not how does this one feel or that one feel? Is this right in their eyes? Is this right in their eyes? How are they going to, react when I start doing this or being this person? It's just giving yourself that permission to just be, right? And then once you have that, being intentional with your time and your energy, surrounding yourself with people that truly see who you are, truly see your ideas, truly see that next level version of yourself that you're stepping into. And then truly, who is she trying to become? For me, in my journey, it was all about gratitude. That was my first step that really set me off in finding who I was beyond everything that I've gone through, all the hardships, all the trauma, and really stepping into my authentic self was gratitude. And you may say, well, how do you even connect those two things, Amanda? Well, I was living my life through everything that I was not. I was so focused on what I was not doing. I was not confident. I was not able to speak my own mind. I didn't have a good job. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. I was so focused on just spinning that narrative constantly on a loop, repeat.
Right.
That I wasn't really able to tap into everything that was waiting there for me to ignite. And gratitude was a way of me being able to do that. And it started off very simple. I did gratitude through the senses. Every morning I got up and I gave gratitude to the first thing I could hear, see, taste, touch, and smell. Right. And once I started that practice of externally giving gratitude, I was able to go inward and start giving gratitude to all the parts of myself that I was not giving recognition to, that I was pushing aside because I was too busy highlighting everything that I was not, all the negatives, So once I was able to do that, I realized, Amanda, you got a lot of amazing qualities about yourself that you haven't even been recognizing or giving yourself a pat on the back. Right? Now let's take all these qualities and put them to action. Start living out this woman that's been waiting inside of you to start living a life that's authentic to her. So gratitude really helped me do that. And with gratitude came space and grace and compassion, having compassion for those moments where I felt like I was not. Giving myself grace for those moments that I felt like I was not or could not or did not. And realizing that, yeah, I did all those things. All those things might have happened to me, but they also happened for me.
Right.
And, I had this whole narrative and this whole story about myself. And I just got to a point in my life where I was like, quite honestly, tired of telling myself the same old story. And I sat on the step with myself the one day and I was like, you know what, Amanda? Let's start telling ourselves a different story. Let's start telling ourselves a story that is going to set us forward so that we're living a life that's more authentic to who we want to be, that we're in our passion and our purpose. And it was really going back and looking at all those moments, all those moments where I felt shame and sadness and grief and digging out the deeper hidden gem in those experiences. And that wisdom, man, did it send me forward. And it gave me a deeper sense of self. And I was able to take that new narrative that was for me and create this powerhouse being who is now living in her passion and her purpose more than she ever has in her entire life. And the most fulfilling thing I have to say is that, as a mom, if there's any moms listening, for me, it was always do as I say, not as I do. We grow up and you're always do as you're told, right? But quite honestly, I always took who people were, the things that they did. Those were the things that hit home for me. And like I said, when I had my daughter, I was in this moment of panic thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to be watching my every move. What am I doing with myself? Because I remembered as a child, my parents might have told me, do this, be this, but I was always watching and observing who they were.
Yeah.
So now I was in this space where I was finally able to give my daughter not only my words of wisdom, but my action of wisdom too. She was able to see that I was a woman of my word. And what I'm telling her and the guidance that I'm giving her is who and what I'm truly living in. And that's the most fulfilling thing for me.
It's beautiful. And I really love, just want to push more on that gratitude. When we focus on the things that we don't have, our energy creates and attracts more lack. If you focus on what you don't have, your energy is lack, and that's what you attract. So the second we start writing down the things we're thankful for, find that one thing that made you smile, start focusing on those things that bring you peace and joy, and write them down. And all of a sudden you start attracting abundance because you're thankful for for the abundance, that vibration of your life now wants more abundance because you're focused on it.
Yep. I could talk about gratitude all day because it saved me. It truly saved me. Doing those 5 simple steps in turn, I always call it's like shifting the tide, right? Like picture yourself. I remember we all probably at one point in our lives were in a circle pool, and we always did that. Like, let's all go in a circle. And before you know it, that tide just takes you and you can just lift your feet and take off. But then we always did the challenge of turning around the other way.
Yeah, it's so hard.
Right?
That's like walking upstream.
So hard. But then in time, with consistency, it gets easier and you start shifting that tide in a different direction. Right? So it's like the same thing goes for that gratitude practice. In time, I was in a point in my life where like, I don't know what to give gratitude for. Okay. Like I see you. I wish I could give credit to where I first found that. It was probably Pinterest because I'm a Pinterest gal, but I don't remember where I first seen it, but I remember seeing it and thinking, okay, give gratitude. Well, to what, and then I came upon the gratitude to the senses, and it was shifting that tide. Right. And it's really hard at first, but with consistency and practice, it becomes easier. And then it opens you up to discovering that you can create your own reality. And this narrative that you've taken along with you was a choice. And that sometimes stings a little to realize that, I was choosing to take this along with me the whole time. But I can also now in this moment choose to release it and grab onto something bigger and better than I could have ever imagined. And I think an important step in that is, while we are in our gratitude practice, is giving gratitude to who we're going to become and writing that version of ourselves and getting very specific in those things. What does she look like? How does she dress? Who does she surround herself with? Or himself? I say herself because I'm, speaking from my experience, but, what activities does she like to do? Get very specific. What qualities does she possess? Is she confident? Does she know her worth? Does she love herself? And write out that future version of yourself and then set the intention to, in that moment, start taking action to stepping into that version. And you will see a massive shift in your life.
I love that. And I recently was exposed to, I don't know why I didn't learn this a million years ago because I love it, but bridge goals versus SMART goals. And a bridge goal is what's going to get me to that next step. We can have a vision of where we want to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now. But what is the next step? What's going to get me over this current situation? Give yourself baby steps. Give yourself things that you can go, I did that. Because as we start having those rewards of I accomplished this, we now attract more accomplishment. It's funny how when you have that real feeling, that feeling's what attracts more of those same feelings. So give yourself the permission to make your goals tiny. What are you going to do today to put a smile on your face? If that's all you can do, what are you going to do to make sure that you're doing the best thing for you today? And then reward yourself with a great night's sleep. But that's all it is. It doesn't have to be a present or $1,000. Just reward yourself with something that feels good to you.
I love that so much, Lauren. I got to say, friends, it really is all about the little steps. And in those little steps, remembering to give gratitude to, the process. We all have a vision for ourselves, especially this time of year, beginning of the new year. We all have our vision boards and we have things that we're setting out to achieve and accomplish. And they might be big things. Sometimes we think to ourselves, did I bite off a little bit more than I could chew? I always like to bite off more than I can chew because I know anything that, we do that's outside of our zone of comfort is worth doing, because that's where the magic app happens, outside your zone of comfort. But, it's in that journey of getting yourself from point A to point B, realizing that it's not just about point A to point B. It's all those little tiny points in between that matter. And I keep it real. There's moments where I'm not in that energy and I get very resentful,
yes.
frustrated. I know you feel the same way, right? Like we do it. We're human. It's, we're not perfect. What is perfect anyway? I don't even like using that word, but giving gratitude to the little achievements. Did you get up today and make your bed? Was that something that you normally never did? Good for you. Celebrate that. That's amazing, right? Did you change, something in your life that maybe you started dressing a little differently than you normally would? Amazing. Love it. I'm here for it. So it's like celebrating those little moments that you normally would just brush off to the side because you feel, okay, well, we did that, but we still have this bigger goal and vision here.
Yeah.
You're going to get yourself stuck really quick if you're just trying to get yourself to point B and you're not giving yourself the gratitude and the accolades that you deserve throughout the entire journey.
I liked your point about the vision boards. And I say dream big. Put your big goals on your vision board if you choose, but come back and set some steps to get there, because you will see progress if you add the little steps. But I have a travel vision board over here, things I want to do. And on there is a huge Prevost type RV, because I think that will be fun. That's not happening tomorrow. I don't need it tomorrow. It's what are my steps in between there? And my first one is to go on a long road trip with my husband. Because if I can't handle a road trip without an RV, I'm not going to handle it with an RV. So even though that might be this long range thing, maybe I will change that if we're not happy on the road together.
Right.
It's like, what works? Just because I think it would be this beautiful pleasure, it may not work. And it's okay to change your goal. And I think that's the most powerful thing that anybody can get, is it's okay to change, because we change, we evolve. The caterpillar has a particular goal in mind, and probably not to be a butterfly. It's probably just to get through the process of becoming, so it's know that those big things are going to happen, but start recognizing the little steps along the way. And as we do that, we find our passion. As we find our passion, we can put purpose to it. And as you have purpose, life makes sense.
So powerful. I love that. And, talking about the vision board and going back to, nailing down those goals that we have for ourselves. I'm sure there's people listening that are probably looking at their vision goal or their vision board from 2023. Maybe there's something on there that like you didn't do, so you're thinking, well, this wasn't my year because I didn't do the things that I set out to do. And with that, I say to you, we have our dreams, we have our visions, we have our goals, but there's so much that's involved in that process, when we're living out our passion and our purpose, which sometimes can be very goal oriented. Sometimes maybe it wasn't a year of doing. Maybe it was more about the year of being, cultivating that inner being of who you need it to become in order to do the things. And I really want to encourage you to not look at your year because you didn't get the RV or you didn't get the job or you didn't start the business. Look back at everything that you did achieve. I encourage everyone within my community to look back each month. I've been doing it all this month, as we're wrapping up. Look back each month of this past year. There's something truly powerful in each month, in each week, in each day that we've probably passed off and thought, like I said before, well, this isn't really that important, but it is. It's all those little steps, right? But we sometimes pass them off because we feel like they don't add up. But maybe this wasn't your year of doing the things that you wanted to do yet, because you were cultivating that powerhouse being the person you needed to be in order to do, which I think is so much more important. We can have our doing all day long. There's plenty of people that do. Just know there is a seat for you at that table. And there's going to be a seat for you at that table because of who you are, what you bring to that table.
It brings me to the gym analogy. And I don't know why I use the gym analogy, because I don't like going to the gym, but it just makes simple sense. So say at the beginning of a year or month or day, I set the goal, I am going to lift 100 pounds, deadlift, whatever. And I get to the gym and all I can do is 10. Okay. I have a starting point. Where did you go from there? It's okay to go 10, 11, 12. You don't have to go 10 to 100. Build it up. Train those muscles. Train that life that you want to create. And when you do the look back, look at where you started. Document, where am I today, right now? So that you can see the progress. And if you go, oh, I didn't do that. I didn't do all that stuff. Guess what? I have a cell phone with thousands of pictures on it. Take 90 seconds. Take a couple minutes. Scroll back through your last month, your last year. They will remind you of what was important. What did you see? What did you do? Because we all take more pictures than we ever plan on keeping, because it's just pictures of what reminded you of this day. Go through, clean up your picture list and get a view of who you were last year. Now be amazed at who you are now.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's a really cool idea, actually. I think I might do that. Plus, it'll help me save some memory in my phone.
I stole it from somebody else. I thought, I'm like, this is such a great idea. And it worked. Just like, wow. And my goal for this year is to take more pictures of my daily life, because of what it will help me at the end of the year. I don't have to journal it right now. I don't have to, but I have a memory that will bring me back to that feeling.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. I think a good thing too, I was just thinking when you were talking about the whole gym thing, sometimes we get, so I was reading something, I think it was on Healthline, if I'm not mistaken. There's statistics of, just how we have to introduce a new habit into our brain, right? Like there's a science about this. Our brain does not like change. Our brain does not like change. I repeat that. Does not. And, a lot of times we have this new year, new me mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And with that comes big change. And a staggering, only, I think it was like 39% of people from 2020 kept their New Year's resolution. Only 2020. Now this is 2023. So, 3 years have gone by and only 39% of people have truly changed their lives. And I think it's attributed to people tried to make these huge changes in their life instead of taking those smaller actionable steps and start implementing, instead of saying like, okay, I'm going to start drinking half a gallon of water a day. Just say to yourself, I'm going to start treating my body better by giving it more of what it needs, such as water. I think by taking that small actionable step, you have a better way of creating a habit that's going to stick, rather than telling yourself it's all or nothing. Go big or go home. I need to drink this half a gallon of water today, or I'm not sticking with my goal. And then there's going to come a day where you don't do it. And then you're like, well, there goes that, So it's taking those small actionable steps and giving yourself a goal, but I would say like keep it vague, keep it doable, keep it to where, you're implementing something into your life, into your mind without your brain knowing, hey, wait a minute, there's change going on here. What's happening? And you will see that those habits and those resolutions or whatever you want to call it, they will stick because they're small and they're actionable.
Yeah. And I want to remind our friend that's listening here that even though you and I are still in 2023,
Mm-hmm.
that this is something that's going to work anytime you listen to this in 2030 or doesn't matter. These things are relevant for right now.
Oh,
right
absolutely.
now, in your day, right now. What are you grateful for? What baby step can you put in place to get closer to your goal? What is your next step? Because that's where we need to focus. And knowing that when we set the goal, that it is okay to change. If you've ever bowled or pitched or shot a gun or a bow and arrow, the closer the target, the easier it is to hit. If you're targeting something a mile away, you're more likely to miss unless you're a sniper. If you have this ability to hit short-term goals and then set a new target.
Yeah.
We don't have, once I hit this goal, this baby step, I progressed. Maybe I decide to change what my outcome is. Like, I no longer want that Prevost RV. I think just a camper would do. Okay, that's good. That's my next. It doesn't matter. It's knowing that you're setting it achievable. Set your next step achievable.
Yeah. I love the embracing the change. Embrace the pivots of life is what I say. I say pivot and I think of Friends, the show. If anybody watches that, when they were taking the couch up the step, goes pivot. But it's true. Embrace those pivots. You might look at your board or wherever, you might have a goal or a vision in mind, and months go by and you're like, you've outgrown it. Or you've become resistant to realizing, sometimes we get so hyper focused on having that one goal or one vision and having it look this way and be this way that you're really cutting yourself off from all the amazing opportunities that are happening around you. And I've done this myself. I started my journey of making an impact, living out my passion and my purpose through coaching. And I thought, Amanda, we are going to kill it in the coaching world. We are going to go out there. And for me, and the way that I operate, coaching was not my first step. I was kind of putting the cart before the horse. And I was very resistant to realizing, hey, this is not the way. We know we're meant to make an impact. We know that we're meant to impact a collective, but Amanda, coaching is not the way for you. But I wasn't able to really grasp onto that until I had to learn the hard way when I got into a moment of stuckness. I was feeling resentful, bitter. I was watching all the other people around me, in the coaching world accomplishing. And I'm like, why is this not happening for me? And I thought, well, maybe this is an opportunity to embrace a pivot. Maybe there's other things happening here that are happening for me that I haven't really been recognizing because I've been so hell-bent on having this one outcome. And maybe this isn't for me. And as soon as I let go of that, it was like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Here's podcasting. Here, you got your own podcast going on, girlfriend. Here's speaking. You want to speak on a stage? Here, it's yours. You speak on it. Here's a community of women who want to take their lives to the next level step. You want to impact a collective? Here you go. And I thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity. And it was something that I never even set out to do. When I first started out, I never even thought podcasting was for me. But now I sit down every week and it's my jam. It lights me up. Speaking is my jam. Having my community is my jam. So, it's like embracing those moments where we feel like we're quote unquote failing, where we feel like we're not following through, where we feel like things aren't happening for us, because they really are. It's just maybe you've outgrown your goal or your vision. Maybe you need to look around you because there's so many amazing things happening and you're cutting them off because we have this tunnel vision of what we think success or passion and purpose is supposed to look like.
Yep. You know,
So
and
embrace
I
those
also, or change your definition.
Yeah.
So seriously, Amanda, do you think you're not coaching?
No, I am.
Every
I'm just
word
not
that
in
comes out of
that
your mouth.
salesy. Yeah.
Yes. It's a coaching. It's giving people an opportunity to hear that grace, that gratitude. And so even though maybe we're not doing that one-on-one, or I have this contract now, you have to talk to me for 6 weeks or 12 weeks. Every day you open your mouth, you are coaching. So if you change the definition, you met your goal.
Mm. Yep.
And that's what I want our friend to do too, is change the definition if you have to. You may have already reached your goal.
Mm-hmm.
Set a new one now.
I love that.
This has been really fun. I really, really appreciate learning to focus on that passion and purpose, because when we feel the passion, the purpose just comes. It's not like two separate, unique paths we have to be straight and narrow on. We can go look the scenic route. We can go wherever. Experiment. Find the things that put a smile on your face. So, Amanda, as we close out, are there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with our friend?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for listening, friend. It's been truly an honor to have this conversation with you. And if there's anything that I want those who are listening to take away, is I've mentioned this from the beginning, and it's listen to that quiet whisper that's within you. And the more attention you give to that quiet whisper, he or she will become a loud roar, and you can step in and live unapologetically the life that you truly want to live, being the person that you want to be, doing the things that you want to do.
Whoa, that was beautiful. I got to write that down and put it on my wall. I love it. And I love the unapologetically. Be you.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you for joining us. Friend, Amanda and I are not medical or mental professionals. We are here for entertainment purposes only. The full disclosure can be found in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss a next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.